Hello, it's time to meet another member of the Matchday team. My name is Sean Mullen, and this week I was joined by Kai Chan, our data science lead. He works very closely with the cards that you see in squads, making sure that their ratings are accurate and that they are correctly implemented. And he's also a big football fan. He supports Newcastle, Real Madrid, and Lazio, so we spoke a little bit about that as well. Check it out, guys. I hope you enjoy it. So, let's get started. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our Meet the Matchday team session with me, Sean Mullen, and today's guest, Kai Chan. Hello, Kai. How are you doing?
Good, doing well. Glad to be on. Thanks,
Very
Sean.
good. Thank you very much for joining us. And as well as that, because I think it's always interesting for our listeners to hear it, where are you speaking to us from today?
I actually live in Tennessee, so I'm in Nashville, Tennessee.
Oh, nice.
Music City.
Are you? Yes, I was going to say, are you a fan of the show?
I am. I'm a big country music fan. So.
Oh, really? Well, there you go. I've literally never knew that before.
There you go.
So this is an eye-opening experience for me as well. Yes, I'm calling from sunny Manchester, where we have a bit of a music scene as well. Not quite as iconic as Nashville. We don't have our own TV show about it, but maybe one day.
That's right. You're a big Manchester United fan, right?
Oh, let's not start that. We're not going to be able to continue this call if we're going to be throwing accusations around like that, Kai. I am not a Manchester United fan. I am a Liverpool fan because I love going behind enemy lines and sitting inside, terrified of what might happen if I go out and tell people. So, but thanks for blowing my cover, Kai. It's life, I guess. Okay, so first of all, you are our data science lead at Matchday. Could you please let the listeners know a bit more about your role and what it is you do on a day-to-day basis at Matchday?
Yeah, sounds good. So I lead data science at Matchday, and there are really two main pieces to this: product analytics and card distribution. So product analytics is really like the GPS for your product, using data to guide decisions around user acquisition, activation, or retention. This could be for a new game or a new feature or maybe a new update. And all this is just because we deeply care about how our users interact with our products. So we're always trying to understand what's working well, what's fun versus what's just not, and what's a drag on the user experience. So that's really the first piece of it, the product analytics piece. The second piece is card distribution, and that's, I think, more football related, right? And that is really the end-to-end process of working with your player associations and your leagues and your national team governing bodies to first procure licensing, and then we also figure out the cadence, how often we're releasing the packs that we release, what their composition look like. We need to source high quality player images, calculate player ratings, to make sure that all of our releases really showcases sufficient diversity in gender and nationality. So we appeal to a broad range of football fans around the world. And finally, of course, we market upcoming launches both on our super vibrant and eager community like this one, as well as through running ads on popular social networks, Twitter, Facebook, TikTok. Those are two pieces.
Yeah, it sounds like a very full-on and in-depth thing that you're doing. You spoke about providing a good experience for the user and making sure it's not a drag and things like that. In your history as a gamer and following these kind of things, what is it for you that you personally think makes a good experience in these kind of games?
I think generally we always want to be transparent with the way we're surfacing these numbers, because the thing about gamers is it's not just the game that they play. We also want to try and optimize our teams and try to increase the amount of control that we have over the outcomes that we see in the game. Now I understand that the ball is round and any team can beat any team, but it's always great to be transparent about how these numbers are derived or what the different boosts to our team actually even do. And that's something that I take very seriously, and we really want to do at Matchday so that our users know exactly how they can improve their squads or how they can improve their gaming experience, because everything is understandable and communicated in a way that is clear.
Definitely, completely agree with that. You mentioned as well that part of your role is producing the ratings for the footballers. So you've got tens of thousands of footballers to go through, and I think, as we know, in football, you're never going to be able to please everyone, because a Liverpool fan and a Man United fan are probably going to say one player has very different abilities. When they debate that. Is this the hardest job in the world that you have, trying to make like accurate ratings for these, because it's such a debated thing?
No, I think you're spot on there. I mean, I would argue that it's the easiest job in the world, just because I love football, and
Okay.
getting to do this on a day-to-day basis is really a big privilege.
Mm. Do you when you're actually going through it and doing it, though, is it because obviously everyone will have their own like footballing allegiances and things like that. It must be like a really sort of difficult. I mean, it's just, how do you even like start with something like that? Because obviously there'll be data and resources for that kind of thing. But when you're building a database of players for Matchday, it just blows my mind even trying to start something like that.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's, I have my own biases too. I think that's an important thing to recognize. There are teams that I support. So when I do player ratings, I actually do it blind. I just refer to a player ID. I never look at their name. I never look at their club, because I don't want my own biases to kick in.
It's very professional.
Well, I think that's necessary. Otherwise, you're just going to see, the clubs that I support right at the top of the game, which would be great for exactly one person in the world. But, just to elaborate a little bit on how our ratings are calculated. At Matchday, we've actually developed an in-house proprietary algorithm that we call Pro Rata, patent pending, which we use to rate tens of thousands of players, right? When you think about the traditional football games, especially the bigger incumbents, which I won't name, they typically rely on large networks of scouts to watch games and to score players along, the different stats that you see in those games. But if you think about how do you really measure leadership, right, or composure, or any number of mental attributes, I think when we started this project, that seemed like an exercise in futility if we were to do that quantitatively. So what sets Pro Rata apart is its purely data-driven approach. To give you a sense, for every match that every player was involved in, and there are a lot of matches, obviously, we crunch over 200 metrics, right, for every match for each player. From the really obvious ones like goals scored or passes completed, to really highly specific ones like the percentage of times a player goes in to try and recover the ball from an opponent in the opposing third of the field but fails. Right? So using these raw numbers, what we're able to do is we abstract away not just the human error that is introduced when a scout is imputing these numbers into a spreadsheet, but also human biases that you're always going to get when a person is in charge of deciding how good a player is for any given dimension. Now, the other thing we abstract away, which I touched on a little bit earlier, is, and I don't think this has actually ever been done before, is the concept of mental or even physical attributes. Because I don't really care how high a player can jump, only that the outcome of that jump results in winning the ball or hitting the ball towards goal, right? So doing so allows us to incorporate female players into the fold. Because our numbers are really blind to gender, we care just how well you perform on the pitch in any competition that you're participating in.
Yes, definitely. And there's so many different areas of football being dominated by stats now. You have like XG. Probably 10 years ago that wasn't even a consideration, but now it's massive. I guess it's like kind of is it a double-edged sword in the sense that you can obviously get a better sense of a player with more statistics, but on the other hand, you do have to bear more things in mind. Like you said there, you have to choose which statistics are actually appropriate and relevant to this when you're ranking the players like this.
No, you're 100% right there. I think the big challenge is really getting the right suite of metrics with which to measure a player's performance. And this is an imperfect process. Players are people. These are numbers.
Yes.
And that's an important distinction to make because there can be any number of confounding variables that would affect a player's performance, sometimes outside of the locus of the team or the coach's control, a tragedy in the family, they just woke up on the wrong side of the bed, any of these things.
Yeah.
But when you take it over a large enough sample of matches, you'll find that, the cream really rises to the top. And that is why I think a quantitative approach is a sensible one, albeit, an imperfect one.
And obviously, the perceived ability of a player, certain players, you might have one player who plays really well for 6 months in a season and then just they drop off completely. It can change so quickly, how a footballer's ability is perceived. Does that make the task harder, or is that something that is sort of accounted for in the statistics?
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I think what makes football so captivating and engaging and infuriating for its 5 billion fans across the globe is probably its highly subjective nature, right? And the
Yes.
old saying, class is permanent and form is temporary. I don't know if I agree with the first part.
Oh, okay.
But absolutely, yes. The second part, form has a tendency of coming and going, which is why we rate our players across several years, right? Several seasons. So one bad season isn't going to tank your rating. But the corollary to that is obviously one great season also isn't going to make you the best player in the world. And there always is going to be a period of time where the grades decline, and that's going to be reflected in our ratings, and that's okay. Because that gives room for the younger and high-performing players to rise up to the top of the game.
So I guess, as someone who's very close to the Cards and has this constant involvement with them, how have you found the Matchday squad's playing experience so far? How's your team been doing? How's your squad looking? And are you pleased with the performance from your boys so far? To get a bit TV on you?
It's okay. I mean, it could be better. My team is a full Newcastle squad.
Nice.
So it's not
representing
the best players in the world, but it's a fun squad to use. We have a product out now called Squads, like Sean mentioned. It's in beta, and it's a simulation engine. You can join a league. We'll report the results, and that's going to we're iterating on that over time, and we think that it could be an exciting product that football enthusiasts, if you're listening, to participate in. But we also have 2 more games in the works that are coming up, so look up for those.
Nice. Yes, keep an eye out for that, and we'll keep you posted on that. And your comment on your team leads us very nicely to the next question, because you are, as I've come to learn, a massive Newcastle fan, as well as Lazio and Real Madrid, which is 3 quite very, very varied teams, I would say. How did you come to start following these 3 clubs?
That's a good question, and I've been supporting these 3 teams for, I want to say, over 30 years now. And
Wow.
back when you grew up in the 90s, when you're picking a side, I was always kind of like, I kind of want to pick a good side, but not the side that everyone else supports. So that was Newcastle. I like the style of play.
Yeah.
They had a few really standout players, Alan Shearer, Faustino Asprilla. And it was nice not being a Liverpool or Manchester United fan, which, looking back, might have been a mistake, because it would have been nice to win a trophy at some point in my life. But we're doing really well this season because of the acquisition. We're gaining a bunch of new fans. I also really like back then we didn't really have the internet, so a lot of this stuff was the matches that you see on TV, and sometimes I catch Serie A matches, a lot of Liga matches, and Lazio and Real Madrid just were playing the style of football that appealed to me. They're very attacking, they're very direct. Again, a lot of times we think of the teams that we support based on the players that we liked back in the day, and for Lazio that was Hernan Crespo, Juan Veron. For Madrid that would be Raul and Casillas and the whole group. The Galacticos era, the beginning of the Galacticos. So, that's my rationale. It's not a very good one, but I think it's a very common one.
No, I think it is a very common one as well. It's similar to mine, like when you mentioned that you sort of pick up on the player first, because my first ever packet of football stickers, I got a Robbie Fowler shiny, and I didn't even realize he had a football team. I was just like, I like this guy. I like this. This is a shiny sticker, so I like this. And then found out later, oh, he has a football team. Oh, that's cool. And started following him that way. And I think it's really interesting. You mentioned, like the pre-internet era of following football. It was really sort of. I
Mhm.
remember, anytime you signed a player from abroad, you'd be like, wow, who is this guy? He could be like the best player in the world. Whereas now it's just, well, let's see what they say on Twitter. Oh, he's got a YouTube video. Oh, okay. He's got, you can find everything out at the touch of a button. But back in the old days, it was very different.
Yeah, I don't know if there's a lot of mystery around new signings back then. Information is obviously a lot less commoditized, and I wonder if that is not better than it is today. It was kind of always exciting and surprising when you see someone you didn't recognize or you didn't watch highlight reels of
Yes.
score a worldie, right?
Yeah. No, it's crazy how far it's come. I feel like the world's a much smaller place now, and like you think your club's signing a completely unknown player. You go on the internet and someone's written like a 1,000-word essay on their pass completion. So yeah, it's I'm getting all nostalgic now. But anyway, so you mentioned that Newcastle obviously doing very well this season. They got a big game tonight against Brighton. Are you confident of getting in the Champions League? How are you feeling about it all?
Yeah, I'm feeling good. I have a number of standing bets with my Liverpool fan friends. Um, I'll,
It's nothing personal, but I really hope you lose them.
I know, but even if we did, we have a little bit of a buffer. I'm quietly
True.
confident, though. I think this would be,
Mm,
making the Champions League is one thing. Doing well in the Champions League is another. And we have zero experience. Well, not for many
yes.
years, but yeah, it's gonna be exciting.
But you've got to start somewhere,
hmm
right? And I know that you are, in particular, a very big fan of Callum Wilson. How do you think he's been doing this season?
I think all the boys have been doing great, actually. I think the reason I'm bullish about our season is, given the acquisition of the club and given the money that we have at our disposal, I think all the players are really playing to keep their starting spots, and that's a
Mm,
motivational factor that shouldn't be underestimated. And that's why I'm excited about the game today. I could eat my words, and you would text me later on and say, "Haha, you guys lost." Um, and they'll be okay. But hopefully we pull out the result.
that's the joy in inverted commas of football, right? I remember saying the other week like how amazing Brighton were and how Everton were definitely going down, and then Everton absolutely tore Brighton apart. So shows how much of an expert I am. So thank you for that. Obviously now Newcastle have the significant financial backing, and the Champions League would help even more. But are there any sort of players you've got your eye on that you think it would be nice to get that in over the summer, or are you just enjoying the ride for now?
Well, I am enjoying the ride, but I also am I'm very happy with what I think is a very sensible approach to transfers for a club that's
Mm,
flushed with money, right? We're not going after the
yes.
world superstars. We're going after experienced Premier League players that aren't overly
Mm.
flashy but know how to play in a team. And for those reasons, I think my number one transfer target pick would be James Madison. Um,
Oh wow,
I've always
nice.
thought he
Yeah.
was a really good player. His team unfortunately isn't doing too well, and if they do get relegated, he probably
Mm.
wants to stay in the Prem. So, yeah, James Madison.
Nice. That's a very good shout. That's yeah, I could see him there. That seems like another, like you say, another sensible acquisition. So one of the other clubs you support, I'm very sorry that we have to bring it up.
Oh no,
Wasn't a great result for Real Madrid last night, was it?
I'm still in mourning, Sean. That was that was rough. It was disappointing. But I
Mm.
think maybe.
Well, I remember you mentioned you joined our watch party and said you were depressed after the first leg when it was 1-1. So I can only imagine what's going on now.
They gave a good account of themselves in the first leg. In the second leg, they
Mm.
barely touched the ball. But I think this will usher in a new generation for Real Madrid.
Mm.
It was heartbreaking for me to see Modric and Cruz just not being able to keep up with the energy of City. But we do have players
Yeah.
that can, and maybe it's time for changing of the guard.
Yes, there's been obviously some players who've been there for a very long time, but being linked with a lot of players in the summer. I think Jude Bellingham is looking quite likely. He seems like he'd be a great addition and part of a very strong young midfield with Camavinga and I cannot say his name, Aurelian. I cannot say his name.
Chouameni?
Something. Yes. But he'd be an amazing signing, right, Bellingham? Would you take him of Real Madrid?
I don't know. I don't know. Like I rate.
Oh, I've just remembered. Yeah, I've just remembered your reservations on this. Sorry, go ahead.
I rate Bellingham very highly. Obviously, he's been a standout performer for Dortmund. But I also recognize that English players come with a huge premium, and the numbers they're throwing around. If you remember when Zidane was bought, he was already a world beater, right? And he signed for world record fee of 47 million. And now we're talking about what 100, 150. I think Mbappe and Neymar went for 200. Those are crazy numbers to be throwing around, and in this economy with football clubs, many football clubs running to financial difficulties and with financial fair play, I'm just wondering if that's the best purchase for Madrid right now.
Yes, when I was speaking earlier about how you could have a player, playing amazing, and then all of a sudden they drop off. I had Dele Alli in my head, and I think that's a warning maybe to other sort of young English players that you need to stay on target. No disrespect to Dele Alli, I have no idea.
Oh, he had a couple of standout seasons. I remember he was essential to Fantasy Premier League for a couple of seasons.
Yes.
There for Spurs.
Yes, definitely. But as bad as the result it was, as a Liverpool fan, I know what it's like to constantly lose out to Manchester City, and they just seem like another. They're on another planet at the moment. They're just out of this world. I mean, we saw last night it looked easy for them, but only because they made it look so easy. Is that the same impression you would have had?
Yeah, I think they just grew in confidence after the first leg. I think they're a little frightened of Madrid and its legacy and what happened last season in Champions League, but they shook that off and they completely dominated. Hats off to City. I have a question for you, Sean. Who would you rather win in the Champions League in the FA Cup final between City and United?
I've been ambushed. I would have to say Manchester City. I mean, it's really like it's not an easy choice.
I know.
It's like choosing. Would you rather lose a tenner or get punched in the face?
It's the lesser of two evils.
What I'm thinking at the moment is that Manchester United ruined my childhood because they were winning everything, and now Manchester City are ruining my adulthood because they are winning everything. And I would just say that childhood memories maybe stick with you more. So that's probably the reason that I would have to say Manchester City. But to be honest, my biggest hope is just that I don't know the game there is so much rain that weekend that they decide just not to bother, and they just say we'll just leave it. We'll just leave it for this year, guys.
I think that's a sensible approach. The road to healing is a long one, and you start with your childhood traumas.
Yes, exactly. It's getting very deep now. This has turned into a psychology session now, where I just open up. I can't deal with it anymore, Kai. So let's move on from that, because your other side, Lazio, they're going very strong as well. I think they're fourth at the moment. They could be heading into the Champions League next season as well.
Yeah, I mean, this has been probably the best season of football in my life, with all three teams doing well. Yes. Typically, only one of them does well, and the other two are just languishing in mid-table. But yeah, props to Lazio. I think the first thing I'll say is I'm really surprised that we've held on to Milinkovic Savic for so long. Every transfer window he's linked to a big club or several big clubs, and for some reason he never moves. So And he's been outstanding this season. The other big
Mm.
change, obviously, is Maurizio Sarri as the manager. He's very experienced. I was very happy to have him. Um,
Yes.
and I'm also happy for Simone Inzaghi because he's now playing the Champions League finals, so no love lost there. But he took a couple of I think he took Joaquin Correa and Acerbi from us, and those guys are in
Mm.
the Champions League finals now, so good for them.
As a Lazio fan, I'm not sure what the Lazio Inter rivalry is like, but would you be backing Inter in the final, or are you going for
Oh,
City?
I'm going into the final as a neutral. I just want to watch good
Oh,
football.
yes. That's a very good way of doing it. Maybe I should get over my previous disappointments and just try doing that one day. I'll get there. um, but so away from football, are you a gamer as well? Obviously, you're working in video games. Do you play many video games?
Yeah, I know this sounds a little bit cliche, but I'm not so much a gamer as I'm a football gamer. I think I only play football games. I
Yes.
play,
Mm,
Konami's eFootball Champion Squads. I play FIFA from Electronic
nice.
Arts. I play Football Manager. Um, you know,
Mm,
always just those games. Trying to build a squad
yes.
and trying to get my team to do well. So excited to be working on a similar effort.
No, it's like I'd like you say, it's like a very different breed, isn't it? Because obviously you can have people. I honestly feel like football gamer is a completely different thing because it's just so niche what you're doing. And who would you normally tend to play as on FIFA and Football Manager? Do you have like a preferred team you usually go for? Is it one of the teams you support, or is it someone left field?
Yeah, no, it's always Newcastle. Just because
Nice.
it's always a big challenge, but maybe now not so much. I'll probably pick something else.
Yes. Yes, no, I was going to say it must be a lot more fun this season to play and have a little bit more money to
Oh yeah.
spend. Yes, so no, that's a good. I've lost so many hours to Football Manager, so I can definitely empathise with you there. Now, obviously, you will know better than most that at Matchday we have the rarities on the cards. We have
Mhm.
limited, rare, and legendary editions. And from your time as a football fan, like past or present, any time in history, I would just like to ask: could you pick out three of your favourite players, to fill those roles? So your top three all-time favourite players, if you will.
To fill those roles for limited, rare, and legendary. That's a good question. So, as a new dad, I'm gonna lean into dad jokes for this one. Um,
Oh, good. I am so here for this.
well, limited has got to be Nick Pope because he limits his opponent's goal scoring opportunities. Um,
That's the best answer we've ever had on this. I love that. That's wonderful.
he's been in
I'm
such a
so
great signing. No offense to Strakosh, no Dubravka, but Nick Pope has been a rock in our defense. Um,
yes. It would be a cardinal sin if you left him out.
that's
That's not even my joke. Somebody made that joke at university about another player called Pope, and I've been waiting, 10 years to use it. So
now's the perfect time. Now's the perfect time.
exactly.
Rare. Okay, that's gotta be Tony Cruz. Just because I think if we made a highlight reel of him misplacing passes on the entirety of his career, that would be under a minute long. He rarely does it. The guy.
This is wonderful, Kai.
Yeah. I want to say I think he's probably the only player that has consistently returned over 95% pass rate, which is insane if you think about it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Out of every 20 passes he picks, 19 of them get to the feet of the person he's aiming for, which is spectacular.
Definitely. I mean, everyone else looks like they're running around terrified, and he's just on cruise control.
And for legendary,
Sorry.
he doesn't play for any of the clubs I support, yet.
No, here we go.
But it's gonna be Lionel Messi, doesn't it? Right? It's
Oh,
gonna be Lionel
yes.
Messi. I will confess that on the Ronaldo and Messi, the great debate that's been going on for over a decade now. I was always Team Ronaldo. But
Yes.
after he won the World Cup, at the end of last year, I don't think there's any more debate about that. Um, a legend of the game, the most Ballon d'Ors. He's gonna leave PSG, or at least that's what's been reported at the end of the season. And maybe it's gonna be Barcelona, or maybe it's gonna be somewhere else. But I have my fingers crossed for Newcastle. I don't think it's gonna happen, but that'll be amazing.
Oh, I mean, can you imagine him rocking up there? That would be insane. I think it's very respectful and noble of you as a Real Madrid fan to say that about Messi. It makes me feel bad for the things I was saying about Man United and Man City.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, don't get me started on Barcelona. But Lionel Messi is a player I really like.
No, that's so Nick Pope, Tony Cruz, and Lionel Messi. Those are some solid choices there, and the pun work, the wordplay was exceptional.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
I would put you in as legendary for that alone. So thank you so much. Final question, maybe the toughest of all. It's the 2024 Champions League final. So it's a year from now. Real Madrid, take them out of the equation. They've won the Champions League enough recently. They can have a little rest. They can have a break. So let's say it's Newcastle versus Lazio. Who do you want to win, Kai?
Wow, that's you're putting me in a spot here. It's like choosing between my children.
I know, we asked the tough questions. Yeah.
You know what?
Lazio
has had cup success recently. It has a super. I think it won the Italian Cup. I want to say 3 or 4 years ago. Newcastle hasn't won a significant cup in 67 years. I think our most recent trophies were the 2 times we went up to the championship and won that, so that we could come back up to the Prem. So I mean, 1955, 67 years of hurt. It's got to be Newcastle.
Yes, I think you've made the right choice there. I mean, like, obviously, it's I'm jealous, that Newcastle have got this new spending power, but as a club and as a city, it's a big club, to be fair, and like the fans have suffered a lot over the years. So at least, I think that they more than anyone deserve to have a bit more success and a bit more enjoyment out of it. So we'll meet back here in a year, Kai, and we'll see if your prediction comes true.
I'm excited about that.
I'm sure of it. But yeah, I think we've covered everything I had. So I'd just like to say big thank you for joining us, Kai. But before we go, we spoke about it earlier. Let's get your prediction tonight for Newcastle versus Brighton. What's your score prediction?
Let's see. Newcastle, Brighton. 1-0.
1-0. Newcastle.
Newcastle 1-0. And the nil just because Pope's not letting anything in.
Of course. He limits those guys. Remember, you heard it here. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Kai. It was really great to speak to you, and really interesting to hear about the work you're doing and your experiences as a football fan. And even as a Liverpool fan who is desperate for us to get in the Champions League, I wish you Newcastle all the best of luck doing it, because it is nice to see. One of my best friends from home supports them as well, and he's been miserable for a few years. So it's nice to see him cheering up. And well,
thank you, Sean. Thanks for having me. This was fun.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I'm glad you enjoyed it, and I hope it was a nice start to your day, because it's 10 a.m. to 10:30, right? Where you are?
10:30.
There you go. I hope your day just gets better and better from here.
You too, Sean. Thank you.
Cheers. So thank you so much for that, Kai, and thank you to everyone who joined us. We'll put it up on YouTube and Spotify so you can listen again. But it's goodbye from Kai.
All right.
And it's goodbye from me. Cheers, everyone. Bye-bye.